Well, ladies and gentlemen, that naked old prophet Jeremiah, he stood buck naked in front of the temple and asked, "Is there no balm in Gilead?" Well, you naked old prophet, we're here to tell you, yes, there is, in 3 sizes at the bookstore after the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on your feet for the revival song. Jesus, Jesus, kingdom of God revealed. Love is the way we follow each day, and in Him all is healed. With harmonies, Jesus, Jesus, kingdom of God revealed. Love is the way we follow each day, and in Him all is. Take it, Brother Duke.
I'm living the Jesus way and doing it right today with a life of faith, hope, and love. And in this life I make, I'm shrewd as a snake, but innocent as a dove.
Hey, if you think Big Brother Duke is innocent as a dove, I got some miracle oil to sell you after the show. Jesus, Jesus, kingdom of God revealed. Love is the way we follow each day, and in Him all is healed. Hey, that's some great trombone playing back there. All right, you may be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Attaboy, attaboy. Hey, Big Brother Duke, looks like the preacher went and ran off. Where do you think the preacher ran off to?
Well, maybe he's working on that sermon for next week, or better yet, he's probably off with that woman of his, Dorcas Joy. I mean, you know how those preachers get on Monday nights.
Y'all know that this is night 31 of a national tour, right? So this is day 11, and we can't wait to get home to our families tomorrow. So you get to experience us at our very best. It's on. Yes, indeed, it's on. Chicken, check, chick. Are we on now? No? All right. I'm going to try and give it a whoop and a push. Should I just talk?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, a few years ago, I read a study that talked about 3 kinds of Americans. First, a traditionalist who longs for the mythic past. This would be the kind of person who thought that the world in the 1950s was actually like the Leave It to Beaver show. The second kind of person in the study they described as a consumerist. Someone who goes to the mall and they buy what our culture is currently producing. And then they describe a third kind of person as a cultural creative. Someone who is dreaming about and working towards a different and a better future. And as I read this study that was conducted by God be praised. As I read this study by a couple of demographers from Marin County, something started to stir inside of me, and I wondered, which group would most religious people in America fit into? Traditionalists, consumerists, or cultural creatives? What's your guess? Right, and that's what the study revealed a few pages later. And what concerned me, oh, look at that. What concerned me. Mark Scandrette. What concerned me was that the people who are creating the future are those cultural creatives, and I have come from a people and a sensibility that is traditionalist. And so I felt like, man, maybe to be up with what the Spirit of God is doing in our time, I'm going to have to leapfrog from that traditionalist posture to more of a cultural creative. And that spirit led our family to move from the Midwest to San Francisco, California about 10 years ago. And when I first got to San Francisco, what I was trying to figure out is, what is the connection between historic Christian faith and life in contemporary society? And I would meet people on the street and make friends with folks. And I had a friend named George that I went to work with one day. George worked as a tattoo artist. And as he was working with needle and ink on the back of one of his clients, the three of us got to talking about sort of our spiritual longings and some of our ambivalence. And the guy under the needle said something that I'll never forget. He said, Jesus is cool. It's just that they effed with Jesus. I mean, Christianity was at its best when it was secret and hidden, and you could die for it. And when he said that, it reminded me of the Jesus that I discovered when I was 12 years old, thumbing through the 4 Gospels. This trickster, provocateur, revolutionary, with the signature phrase, you have heard that it was said, but I tell you. Jesus seemed to want to shock people into discovering a whole new way of being human, to subvert their notions about what the good life is, even what it means to be religious. And I felt this call to be a part of that revolution. I can remember reading these crazy things that Jesus said, like, sell your possessions and give the money to the poor. Forgive your brother 70 times 7. Love your enemies, pray for them, and do good to them. Or, don't worry about money and stuff anymore. Seek first the kingdom of God. Seek first the remaking of creation. Or, welcome a child like you would welcome an adult person in the same way. Well, as I brought these things up to some of the adults in my life, too often what they would say to me is, Jesus didn't actually intend for us to do those crazy things, he said. You're just supposed to sort of feel those things in your heart. Anybody else heard that? Well, that didn't sit well with me, and I started trying to take those things seriously, and I thought of it almost like an experiment. Well, this fits well with the approach that Jesus had towards people who came to him. It was sort of like the drug dealer at my junior high school who would say, try before you buy. People would come to Jesus and he would say to them, you will know whether my teaching comes from God or from human origins if you choose to obey my teachings. Step into it. Try it on. Try and do some of these things that I'm telling you about what life in the reality of the kingdom is about. And as I've matured, I've tried to do this with other people, and I remember turning to some friends one time and saying, it feels like, to really live into the revolution that Jesus inaugurated, it seems like, it's like we need a Jesus dojo. Anybody know what a dojo is? I grew up on Karate Kid, so that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But in Japanese, dojo literally means a place where you learn the way. And it seems like if we're going to be a part of the revolution of love that Jesus came announcing and offered his life for, then we might need to begin to see spiritual growth as being produced in a place that's more like a karate studio than a college lecture hall. So the scary thing about this approach that's experimental, where we see our lives as a laboratory or an experiment for making a life in the way of Jesus, is that experiments are uncertain, they're untested, and they can turn out very badly at times. This definitely happened with the earliest disciples of Jesus. They would try and follow him and fall flat on their faces and fail. One time they're in a town and the people aren't real responsive to Jesus, and so they come to us, and the sons of thunder come and say, Jesus, do you want us to call down fire from heaven on these people? Like they think they're going to get cool points from Jesus for saying this. And Jesus turns to them very patiently, and I can imagine him saying, no, this revolution is not really about killing people, but good try. So they were allowed to make some mistakes, and I think we can see that some of them at least got a little better at following living in the power and love of the kingdom.